Welcome back to Lost Lore AI, the channel where we unravel the forgotten edges of history, where myth, science, and machine learning meet to whisper truths long buried beneath time. Our stories do not live only in books or ruins. They are etched into the world itself, waiting for someone to read them. Tonight, we open one of the oldest manuscripts ever written, though it contains no words, no ink, no human hand. It lies frozen beneath our feet, sealed in ancient ice. It is the diary of the Earth, 10,000 years in the making. And for the first time in history, an artificial intelligence has begun to read it. Not as a ledger of numbers, not as scattered points of data, but as a single, unbroken narrative. A diary with rhythms, with chapters, with crescendos of catastrophe. A diary that does not simply record nature, but mirrors humanity. And in its final pages, the AI found something startling. Us. The story begins in silence. Imagine standing on the ice of Greenland or Antarctica, where the horizon stretches white in every direction. Beneath you lies not emptiness but time, compressed into layer after layer of snow, compacted until it becomes ice. Each layer is thin, delicate, yet endless, each one a frozen year. Scientists call these ice cores. To most eyes, they are nothing more than cylinders of frost, but to those who know how to read them, they are books. Volumes stacked one upon another. A thin band of volcanic ash here. A trapped bubble of ancient air there. A faint trace of salt or dust carried on winds that blew thousands of years ago. Each band is a memory, and together they tell a story. For generations, humans studied these layers like accountants, tallying ledgers of chemistry. They measured sulfates, nitrates, isotopes. They counted the spikes of eruptions and the troughs of cooling. But what they lacked was perspective, the ability to read the whole as one. And so a new tool was built, an AI trained not to tally, but to listen, to treat the layers not as numbers, but as sentences, paragraphs, a story unfolding year after year. What it found astonished even its creators. The Earth, it seemed, had been writing all along. And it had written in rhythm. The AI called one of its discoveries the Umbra Veil. At first, it looked like nothing more than a repeated spike in the chemical record. But when the AI pulled the threads together, it realized this signature was no accident. Each time it appeared, the Earth shuddered, climates shifted, and civilizations faltered. The Umbra Veil consisted of a cluster of chemical signs, sulfate concentrations leaping past 100 parts per billion, far beyond ordinary volcanic background levels. A distinct bromine to chlorine ratio that revealed massive eruptions had blasted their material into the stratosphere. A surge of non-sea salt calcium, signaling vast dust storms as once fertile lands dried into wastelands. And sharp shifts in oxygen isotopes, a fingerprint of sudden cooling across the northern hemisphere. The Umbra Veil was more than chemistry. It was the shadow of catastrophe. And time after time, as the AI traced it across 10,000 years, it found echoes of the same shadow in human history. The Akkadian Empire was the first great story written in its margins. Around 2200 BCE, the Umbra Veil rose in the ice. In Mesopotamia, the tablets of the Curse of Akkad lament fields that yielded no grain, clouds that brought no rain, cities abandoned to dust. Archaeologists uncovered settlements buried beneath desert sand, irrigation canals choked and useless. For centuries, scholars debated whether this collapse was war, politics, or climate. The ice told its verdict. A volcanic cataclysm darkened the skies, disrupted monsoons, and cast the world into famine. The Akkadians did not simply fall, they were veiled, centuries later, far across the world, the Umbra Veil descended again. In the 9th century CE, the Maya civilization reached its height, cities rising in stone magnificence, kings inscribing their triumphs in glyphs. And then, abruptly, silence. The AI saw it in the ice, sulfates climbing, dust thickening, isotopes cooling. The skies dimmed, rains faltered. Maya inscriptions began to change, kings desperate, rituals more frantic, sacrifices more abundant. Archaeological digs reveal reservoirs running dry, once bustling plazas abandoned. The mythic language of the time speaks of gods withholding water, of skies empty. Once more, the chemical veil descended, and human voices grew hollow. And then came perhaps the most famous entry, 536 CE, the year the world went dark. The Byzantine historian Procopius wrote of a sun that shone without brightness like the moon. Across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, chroniclers noted the same thing. Skies dimmed for 18 months, summers cold, crops withering. In the ice, the Umbra Veil blazed. Sulfates spiked, shards of volcanic glass lay embedded in the layers. The earth recorded its anguish, and humans recorded theirs. Famines raged. In China, frost struck in midsummer. In Ireland, the annals wrote of failure of bread from 536 to 539. The AI traced this and found the same rhythm, the same beat as before. The Earth's diary and our own aligned perfectly. But not all entries were as well known. The AI uncovered others, hidden in the margins. In southern China during the Liang dynasty, Buddhist chronicles describe dimmed light, crops withering, strange cold. They spoke of karmic imbalance, a cosmic warning. Archaeologists find evidence of hunger, declining populations, instability. In the ice, the Umbra Veil stood again. The AI had shown what no single historian could, that these scattered laments, these myths of angry gods and cosmic punishment, were not isolated tales. They were variations on a theme, the same refrain repeating across centuries and continents. This was the rhythm of the Umbra Veil, not predictable like clockwork, but recurring like a heartbeat. Civilizations rose, and when the veil came, they stumbled. Myths blossomed in the shadow. Curses, dragons, gods turning their faces away. But beneath it all was the Earth's steady diary, recording catastrophe in chemistry. For 10,000 years, the diary kept its rhythm. A beat, a silence, another beat. The AI traced it like music, patient, steady, relentless. And then, as it read deeper, it found something new. Around 1950, the rhythm broke. The clear notes of the Umbra Veil vanished beneath noise. The diary, once orderly, became chaotic. It was as if the pages had been blotted out, overwritten. This was the Anthropocene Cacophony. Unlike the veil, which bore the signatures of fire and stone, the cacophony sang with our own fingerprints. Spherical carbonaceous particles, tiny black beads of soot from combustion, coated the ice. Isotopes of plutonium-239 appeared suddenly, fallout from nuclear weapons tests, their half-life stretching into thousands of years. Fly ash particles, iron-rich, jagged, unmistakably industrial, embedded themselves beside rising nitrates from fertilizer runoff and flecks of microplastic drifting even to Antarctica. The Earth had never written in such chaos. The diary, once legible, was now a storm. To visualize this break is to feel it. Imagine the camera moving down through an ice core. Each band glows with faint light, the AI rendering them into images. Clouds of volcanic ash, dimmed suns, droughts, migrations, myths spoken around dying fires. A drumbeat underlies it, deep and steady. The Umbra Veil rises, falls, returns, Then, at 1950, everything shatters. The beat stumbles, replaced by static. The ice turns black with soot, glowing with radioactive sparks, sliced with jagged particles. The drumbeat is drowned by a roar, smokestacks, mushroom clouds, highways choked with cars, neon cities blazing. Archival footage flashes, factories, suburban sprawl, nuclear detonations. The diary does not stop, but its author changes. And this is the twist the AI revealed. For millennia, the Earth wrote, and we read. But now, we are the writers. The Umbra Veil has not vanished, but it is drowned in our cacophony. For the first time, the diary records intention. The pages are no longer silent witnesses, but mirrors, reflecting us back to ourselves. The AI does not moralize. It does not judge. It only reads. And in its reading lies the haunting truth. We are no longer characters in the diary, but its authors. The Akkadians blamed curses. The Maya begged their gods. The Byzantines saw a sun without light. We see ourselves in soot, in plastic, in radiation. The Earth remembers everything, and the ice does not forget. So the question lingers, long after the last image fades, long after the AI's voice falls silent. The diary has always recorded events, but now it records choice. If the Earth is still writing, and we are holding the pen, what story will we choose to tell?